Hi, and welcome to the weekly market update from Morton Brown Family Wealth for the week of March 15th, 2021. I'm Dennis Morton here with Cody and Katie Brown. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Today we're going to talk about a big trend in investing, which is sustainable investing, or what's called ESG, and it stands for environmental, social, and governance. This is something that we've been interested in for a number of years. Our clients have been asking about it. Katie, why don't you walk us through what ESG investing is?
Sure. As you mentioned, it's often referred to as sustainable investing or socially responsible investing. It's being conscious about the companies and the different areas of the market that you are investing in. And so it may be a matter of saying, I don't want to invest in this particular area because I don't believe in how the company structure. So it could be, tobacco. It could be like fossil fuels. You may not be happy with the impact on the environment or the health or the social end of it. Or it could be actively investing in companies that you do think are making a great impact and that are leading the charge toward environmental friendly products and services, things along those lines. So it's actively choosing where you want to invest, and oftentimes based on either your personal set of values or the impact that you want to make.
Right. Cody, you found a chart that kind of shows some of the factors that go into each of those sleeps. Why don't you walk us through just some of the environmental, social, and governance factors?
Yeah, so ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. These are some of the top line factors that they're looking into. So for environmental, obviously climate change, carbon emissions, air and water pollution, deforestation, energy efficiency, waste management, water scarcity. So these are some of the factors that they're looking into for some of the different ESG scenarios.
I think governance is an interesting one to cover here, because I think environmental, we're all kind of very aware of that based on the products that we use or don't use. But governance, when we talk about board composition, executive compensation, political contributions, that's one that doesn't quite come top of mind. It might be harder for investors to look on the surface at a company and say, do they meet this? And Katie, how does good governance benefit an investor? Why would somebody want to screen for that, either proactively or negatively?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of benefits of it. Much of it comes down to building in efficiencies and perhaps avoiding future risks, making sure that there are policies and practices in place to minimize the opportunity for bribery or corruption or things that may create incentives that you don't want within a company. So I think by putting those practices in place and building it into the culture of the different organizations, then it helps to get everybody in sync. And as I said, it can mitigate future risks and build in just some good practices and efficiencies within how a corporation is run.
Right. And then lastly, the social, and this is talking about people and relationships. It's everything from gender and diversity, which has gained a lot of momentum over the last couple of years, data protection, customer satisfaction, just companies that make their customers feel good and make their employees feel good, treat people well. I think that's one that we have increasingly seen, emphasis on, and especially when it comes to marketing. And this is one that you'll see, companies will, actively share out loud how they're treating their employees or be a best place to work, that type of environment. It really matters. And now you can find ways to invest in those companies that place that higher value there. Mm-hmm. What are some of the growth numbers that are happening in ESG investing? How the assets have been flowing into some of these funds, right?
It really is kind of a new concept, factoring through all these different things. It started around 10 years ago for some of the data that we've looked at. And it was pretty even over the first 8 years. But then over the last 2, it's more than doubled in assets under management, which is good to see. And I think that trend is going to continue.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because if you look at it, that there's some historical basis for using that a type of screening process, not as advanced as it is now, but using a screening process going back actually to like the 1960s and 70s, but just in the past decade or so, with advancements in just technology and the ability to dive more granular into the makeup of a company, and I would say even more pressure, more social pressure for companies to disclose their practices and disclose the different ways that they run their business behind the screens. All of that, I think, has led to a better way of filtering the companies that you want to be invested in and filtering out the companies that you don't want to be invested in.
Right. It comes down to how do you make your money? And do you make it in a way that's consistent with my values? And if not, now I can filter that out. When it comes to the options available, so there are ESG mutual funds, there are ESG ETFs. They're all the same, right, Cody? Like just one.
No, not even close.
Yeah. So that's one of the hardest things to do is because, for one, every fund is constructed differently. And then every person's going to have a different perspective on that fund. So we've talked with investors about this, and two people could look at the same fund and reach completely different conclusions as to how compliant it is with their values. So you really have to do a deep dive and understand what's inside of it, what industries are excluded or included. Every fund is different. It's important to crack that open. We also found a CNBC article that pushed back on trends in ESG investing, and it was actually from the former head of sustainable investing at BlackRock, which is one of the largest providers of ESG-oriented funds. So their former chief investment officer wrote an op-ed in USA Today this week talking about how the industry, BlackRock and others, are not doing enough, in fact, are incapable of moving the needle to affect change, that they're not impacting climate change enough. They're not impacting the social values of companies enough, and Wall Street is failing in that regard. We had some back and forth on this. What was your take on that, Katie?
Yeah. I think the argument that I was not completely on the same page with was investor intent. He was really kind of addressing it from the standpoint of, if you invest in this, you're not changing the companies. And he feels as if that's being, misrepresented, perhaps. Mm-hmm. But I think that's not always the intent as an investor, to change the companies as far as what they're doing. It's more of to promote, to support companies they feel are doing good within this world, and to also, kind of align values.
Yeah, what we found is for people who are interested in investing in a socially conscious portfolio, oftentimes they're not expecting the change to happen there. They're engaged in grassroots organizations, in political activity, in other aspects where they know that they can move the needle. What they look for their portfolio to do is to provide returns that are consistent with that. If I'm going to make 6% a year, is it a 6% that I can be proud of, or is it coming from places that I'm just not really comfortable with? And that's the feeling that we get. So I haven't encountered an investor who was under the assumption that by buying this socially conscious ETF, I'm going to take it to the fossil fuels industry. That's not happening. But what they are doing is saying, I want to be proud of the returns that I get.
Yes. Making sure that all the different areas of the life are kind of in sync. Like, this is what I'm doing in my personal time. This is how my family and I view things. This is, bringing all of those different pieces of your life kind of in sync.
Cody, what did you think of that CNBC piece?
No, I thought it was good. Potentially, maybe the firms that are pushing the ESG are misrepresenting it, depending on what their marketing is. But like you guys said, I don't think our clients and people who want to invest in the ESG are doing it because they think they're going to make a huge difference by investing in this fund. It's more of they want to do it so they're not investing in some of the other companies that the ESG portfolios are excluding. I think that's probably their main focus.
If you're interested in having a conversation about how to make your portfolio better aligned with some maybe ESG values that you have and some of the factors that we've discussed today, let us know. We're happy to have that conversation with you. All right, so we're recording this on St. Patrick's Day, but I found out Katie is not wearing green because of the holiday. She's wearing green because of her March Madness pick. So let's get down to the real issue of the day is who's going to win the tournament this year? Katie, why don't you go first?
Michigan State. I roll with confidence every single year. So
you've been right a couple of times. I'll give you that.
And I'm not going to get pinched by the leprechaun today. So green was for St. Patrick's Day also. Just putting that out there. I don't know about the rest of you guys. You do not look as well protected.
No. And in fact, that completely slipped my mind. So I'm bracing. Cody, how about you? Who do you have winning?
Kansas is my favorite team, but I don't think I'm going to go for them this year. They're too inconsistent. I'll probably go for Illinois.
Illinois. Excellent. I love that Gonzaga's a 1 seed this year. I've always liked that team, but I'm a Maryland Terp guy. Every March, it's all about Fear the Turtle. Even though Maryland's a 10 seed, I'm going to at least count on a couple of wins to make a deep run. All
Good
right.
luck with that. Sorry, you guys will all lose.
Very good. All right. Hope everyone has a great week. Let us know if there are topics you'd like to hear from us in the future, and we will catch up with you soon.